What's up, y'all? We're going to be working on this really cool painting today and show you how I made it. But first, I have a little bit of a rant slash announcement. Bear with me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. If you don't know who I am, I'm Randy. This is my studio. Today I'm gonna be walking through how I made this painting here, which I'm pretty excited about. I think it's gonna be a fun one. I just wanted to say a couple things. It's Friday night. It's late. I have just got off work not too long ago. It's about 30 something degrees. It's very cold out here. I love doing this stuff. That's why I do it. The last few weeks have been probably the best weeks as far as traffic and subscribers on my channel. So I want to say thanks to everybody who's been a part of that and have supported me. But this week has probably been one of the worst. I have no idea how this stuff works. I thought my last video was probably one of my best, most interesting. It does mean a lot when people support me, and I wanted to say, if you like my content, if you've been here before, if you appreciate what I'm doing, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, do me a solid, do me a favor. Like it, subscribe to it, share it, comment, all those things. It really does seem to matter. Thanks to my buddy Matt at Just Okay Design. He has some really cool merch if you guys are interested in t-shirts and hoodies and caps and coffee mugs and all kinds of cool stuff. So go check him out, Just Okay Design. I'll put a link in the description. Go give him some support, show him some love too. All right, let's get started. Thank you.
So how did I come up with this idea? I had this acrylic background that I had poured out, and it really reminded me of flying over oceans and landscapes, aerial photography. I used to travel quite a bit for work, and I'm a bit of a nervous flyer, I have to admit, but I would always request to sit by the window so I could take photos and enjoy the views. These are just some of the snapshots I've taken over the years in the various trips that I've taken. So maybe I'll consider painting some of these city views and different various landscapes in the future. But at any rate, thought you might enjoy some of these photos. Now let's move on to the painting. So I've got this background, and now I want to put an airplane on top of it and position it. And I found these photos by an artist named Kelley. He has really great photography of aircraft from above. It was perfect for what I wanted to do. So I reached out to him and I asked him if he would mind if I referenced some of his photos for this project. And he was more than gracious and gave me permission to use whatever I wanted. So that's what I did. And I grabbed one of his photos and I mocked it up in Photoshop on top of my background just to get an idea of scale and placement and to see how it would look. I played with a few different airplanes, a few different color schemes. Once I got the airplane photo that I wanted and the size and everything, I went ahead and cut it out using an X-Acto knife. If you do this, please be very careful. These things are super sharp. I'm sure most of you have used them and but just a fair warning. But it was perfect to use to cut this out, and then I was able to take the cutout and place it on top of my painting and arrange it exactly the way I wanted to and see how everything would look. And I decided once I got that exactly how I wanted it, I would just use my stencil that I'd created to just trace around the shape and place the plane exactly, the silhouette of the plane at least, exactly where I wanted it. Now I didn't plan this out from the beginning, but I decided to use the cutout of the paper to as a true stencil to start laying down the white of the airplane, and that worked out really, really well. I was able to get a clean transfer of the silhouette of the plane, and then from there I just built up white paint on top to get the base layer, and I was pretty happy with that. I think that in my previous videos I've kind of mentioned this before. I haven't considered myself a realistic artist or a realistic painter as far as style. I've always been drawn to the abstract painting style. So I'm trying to use all these tips and tricks, these little shortcuts I can. As I do more of this and get more comfortable with this style of painting, I'll probably do more freehanding of these kind of things. But at this point, this is a very obviously, mathematically correct, symmetrical subject matter, and it just made sense to me to use, the stencil, use tracing, use whatever I could just to get as accurate um, proportions as possible. Now for this first layer of white, I used golden acrylic fluid paint. The only reason I mention that is because it goes on really flat, really thin, so you have to build it up over multiple layers. There's not a lot of texture in this layer. Now there's a lot of texture on the background that was already there from the previous acrylic pour. So I'm having to deal with that a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. Now at this point, I'm starting to add in some details. You probably noticed I'm adding some shadows. There's not a lot to paint here, but I kind of felt like this was one of those deals where it's like a boxing match where two heavyweight fighters are sort of feeling each other out. And I kind of approach these paintings that way, where I'm not sure exactly where I should start, or at least what my second and third and fourth steps should be. So I start to just pick things that I notice, observe, the shadow on the side of the plane, or maybe some of the line work that is, the rivet lines on the wings of the plane. And I just pick a color, maybe like a medium or a light gray, and start laying in some of those details. And then from there, I just react to it. If I feel like the lines are too dark or too light, I just adjust them on the fly. If I feel like highlights somewhere are not light enough, I lighten them up. And so it's just one of those things where you just go start somewhere, right, and then just go from there. At this point I felt a little more comfortable, so I started to work on some of the more noticeable details, like the blue on the tips of the wings and whatever that thing is called on the back of the plane there. So I think it's called a vertical stabilizer. I actually had to go and look that up. It's funny the things that you think you know, but then when someone asks you, or you have to come up with the words, you don't actually know what things are called. So now I'm just going in and adding like the windows on the plane, very very subtle. The antennas or whatever you want to call them, just some various mechanical objects that I can see that are very subtle, and the windows in the front, and just a little more detail here and there just to make it look more realistic. So about halfway through this process, I started to think about what else could I add to this to give it even more depth and make it feel like it has even more perspective and really bring home that effect. And so I decided to add a little cargo ship, which again, I've taken photos of these as I've been flying over them before, and I thought it would be a nice little touch. So I cut out a tiny little cargo ship and played around with the placement of it, as you can see, and then just, yeah, painted that into the background, which I think is a really cool effect. And I liked, the cargo ship that I found online that I referenced had all different colors of cargo containers on it. So it had really bright blue and red and yellow, and kind of reminded me of Legos. And it was just a playful little thing that I could throw in there to really, again, add to the effect of this painting. So this ship is very small in this painting, and I ended up painting in sort of some wake, turbulence effects in the water behind it, which helps make it clear what this is. This was a Chinese airliner, I believe, and there was some text on the wings, which I obviously couldn't read. But I ended up looking up the words "explore your world" or "explore the world," and I painted that on the wings in very illegible Chinese characters. They're too small to actually make out, but I thought it was a cool little secret to hide that in there. And after that, I touched up the painting a little bit more, just again, little minor things that I wanted to fix, that probably I would be the only one that noticed. And I also signed the plane on the right side, on the right wing, with my name and or my RLD, my initials, and the date, which I thought was kind of a fun little thing. I couldn't bear to sign it in the ocean or anywhere else, and I felt like um, the orientation of this painting might, I might change how I want it to hang, so it could be moved around in different ways and still is successful. So cool. Well, so this is how it turned out. This is a photo I took of it outside, and I tweaked the colors a little bit in Photoshop just to give it more contrast, but this is pretty much how it looks. Very happy with it. Here's a little close up of the little ship. Let me know what you think. If you like this kind of stuff, I really appreciate all the comments and feedback you guys have been giving me, and I hope you enjoy the video. And yeah, take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks.